Hey, everybody, welcome to Daniel Davis Deep Dive, coming to you live from Washington, D.C. But we got a special treat for you today because we're also coming live from Erbil in Iraq. We have independent journalist, former Voice of America journalist, and a good friend of mine, Ali Javanmardi. Ali, welcome to the show from Iraq.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you so much.
And just to give people a little bit of a flavor for, who you, because you do a lot of work in the Middle East there, and especially on Farsi language shows that we'll talk about here in a minute. A lot of our American audience may not know who you are, may not recognize your name. But let me just tell you guys that Ali is an incredible journalist, absolutely fearless. I had done some work in 2015 in Iraq, and Ali hosted me and helped me do some things to cover the ISIS fight in Mosul. I remember there a couple of times actually, and your hospitality was great. So I've always appreciated that. But even more so, I've admired your professional just tenacity and how you've gone through it, fearlessness. And I'm going to show just a little clip. Now, you're not going to understand the language here. It's in Farsi, but that's not important. Just note, here's just a taste of what Ali does in action.
اینجا کوچه پس کوچه های مرکز شهر اعزازه که بیشتر به مخروبه میمونه تا اینکه جایی که محل سکونت مردم عادی بوده.
پس از آن نیروی پیشمرگ وارد عمل شد. داعش در گروه‌های کوچک 3 یا 4 نفری در منازلی که داخل آنها تونل زده‌اند مانع پیشروی می‌شود.
And that was just
censored in Iran.
What's that?
And news is censored in Iran, and people of Iran don't have this chance to have news and free media. That's why our job is important for future of Iran, especially for democracy and for fighting against this terrorist regime in Iran.
Yeah, and just for our audience, that clip we just showed is just one of many. There was actually one, Ali, I remember you showed me when I was there, where you're like in the middle of a tank fight and you're like right near a tank tread. I wish we could have gotten that to show, but folks, this guy is like unafraid to go anywhere to get the right story. And really, to Ali, to explain to him why you have, the feelings that you do and the on the Iranian regime, and why you're so dedicated to this aspect to bring freedom to a people in Iran, by the way. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about your story, because you came from Iran, and if I remember correctly from our stories, you were actually imprisoned by Iran and beaten in jail.
Actually, I believe that the Iranian regime is the most active supporter of international terrorism. And if you look at it, is wrong to allow this regime to continue threatening regional peace just for the sake of promotion of the sale of more weapons, I think, to Arab government. Inside the Iran, you know that this regime suppress a lot of people against ethnic right, against minorities, against who wants to freedom and democracy. And with this regime, we cannot have peace at the Middle East and at all, maybe at the future in the world. That's why important fighting against this regime. I started fighting against the Islamic regime since I was 18 years old. And regime arrested me at that time in 1994 for a year. Just about, I published at that time an article against Islamic regime, against Islamic ideological at that time. After that, I fled from Iran. This is a long story if I want to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go. Obviously, I want to, talk to some current issues, but it's really important to understand what is that led you as an 18-year-old to take such a risk, because you obviously knew that the regime wouldn't take kindly to that.
This is not just for me, for all of Iranian people. We have ideological regime that don't let you to publish anything against this regime views, against Islamic radical views. That's why this is not just about me or Kurds or Persian, or I mean, they are against all people inside Iran that try to have freedom. They are talking about democracy. That's why this regime is actually against freedom, against all democracy value that you believe that. That's why they arrest me maybe for nothing. This is a kind of joke if I say they arrest me for a year for just a few articles against this regime.
But that does show the nature of the regime. So what are you doing now? Because I know that since you've left Voice of America, you now have basically your own, I don't know if it's company or at least your show or service that you have that you're trying to broadcast into Iran for other people who want to be free. And I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about who you're talking to, how they're reacting to it.
Right now, a few colleagues and I created a news network by name of Ava Today. If you see, you can check that in avatoday.net. We are publishing true news about Iran without any censorship, and try to mobilize the people against Iranian Islamic regime. Because we have a few TV channel funded by a few governments in abroad, but they never don't talk about any plan against regime. They just talking about news, what happened, what's going on, and this is not enough for Iranian people to make an uprising against this regime.
And so, how is it received? How many people, I guess, subscribe to your service, or how many people will view your news?
In Instagram, I have more than 1,400,000 in depend to which application, but at least per month I have more than 1 million viewers.
Wow, that's incredible, and I guess it's probably fair to say then that there's a lot of regular people within Iran that desperately desire freedom. Is that a fair statement?
That's correct. Yes.
Well, I'm sure they're grateful for you, because I know that you always are providing actual news and the truth of it, no matter what it is, which is obviously something we value a lot here, because they're just not getting that either on their government sources or even many of the other Western sources that are coming in there. But you told me it's also hard for them to even get news. Isn't that right?
That's correct. Yeah, because it's censorship in Iran. You cannot publish any news against Iranian regime views. That's why they're gonna arrest anybody that try to send news to us or any other channels, opposition channels in abroad.
Well, listen, we're just wish you the best of luck in that, and I know that because I've just seen people who are hungry for the truth. And they're grateful for any kind of source that it comes into, and we certainly want you to continue doing that here. But now, I want to shift gears a little bit to what Iran is doing now. So you obviously understand Iran from the inside out, which is really helpful, because to our Western audiences, we hear a lot here about Iran being the state sponsor of terrorism. We hear it all the time here, but we don't really know what that means. And several things I want to discuss here. One is specifically with Hamas. Two is with Hezbollah in Lebanon. And then the third with other groups in the region, because all those play a factor in what's going on here. So I want to start off, first of all, by examining the relationship between Hamas and Israel and Iran, because it's a little complicated, as you'll see from this first segment.
One of the largest financial backers and supporters of Hamas is Iran. And although the Biden administration has said no intelligence shows that Iran approved or greenlit the October 7th Hamas attacks on Israel, the relationship between Iran and Hamas is strong and lasting. Our special correspondent in Tehran, Reza Saya, sat down with the top Hamas representative to Iran for a rare interview.
Iran is a big brother to us. They have supported the Palestinian issue even much before creation of Hamas. They extended their support to the whole Palestinian since the beginning.
Relations between Iran and Hamas frayed during the Syrian war, when Hamas backed its fellow Sunni Syrian rebels and stood against Tehran's Shia militias and Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. In 2017, the two reconciled under the shared view that Israel is not a legitimate state.
Palestinian jihad, Islamic jihad.
Ali,
For sure.
I'm sorry. You may not have seen that last clip played. We played a little clip there where it talked about how Hamas was working with Iran, but that they had some complications because one's Shia and one is Sunni Islam. They had some problems in the Syrian war, but now they've kind of come together since 2017. So I wonder if you can explain a little bit about the difference between those two and how are they working together today?
Let me say that first. For Iran against Israel and United States and Western, doesn't matter who's Shia, who's Sunni. They try to use Shia and Sunni. Just some people say how you say Iranian regime supported Hamas. This is a question. A lot of people say that, especially at the US. I hear that they don't know about the region, but there is some videos from leaders of Jihad and Hamas. I told you about Ziad al-Nakhala, the leader of Islamic Jihad, admitted at the television interview that in any war against Israel, any Palestinian house destroyed will be rebuilt with Iranian funds. And Nakhala said that and had said the Iranian regime, Iranian Islamic Republic, had helped them with at least $30 billion and provided them with weapons. What does mean? We are past the stage where we can ignore the major role of the Iranian regime in Hamas attacks on Israel. It is true that some people say about Qatar, talk about Qatar. That's true. Qatar have supported Hamas, but they had Israel, Netanyahu permission. It was totally different with Iranian support. And at least we cannot say that that much as that of Iranian regime supported Hamas is more than Qatar. It's totally more than Qatar. But the question I said is important here, especially for your American audiences, that they ask why Iran is committed to pay such a high price for this policy. This is important. I know we discussed before with you when I was in Washington. In my opinion, the West does not understand the fact that Iranian regime intention is to attract radical Muslim by inciting Muslim sentiments against Israel and by reviving historical differences. That you ask me, Shia and Sunni, but at this part they are the same.
Push that down because they don't care about that. They do care about the other. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Additionally, it is very important to consider the internal condition of Iran here. Why October 7, this terroristic attack happened? This is important. This is, I think, last year demonstrations were held in more than 100 cities across Iran for many months by people, you remember that, expressing their desire for regime change in Tehran. Again, after the murder of Mahsa Amini, people of Iranian people poured into the streets in the thousands. The people are fed up with a widespread economic, and they sick of this regime. They cannot actually accept any more this regime. Political corruption of the mullahs and their enablers and demand, democracy and etc. People of Iran against this regime, they are and have been consistently severely suppressed. Hundreds of people, youth especially, were killed at the streets. Thousands were injured. 10,000s were arrested. A lot of them fled from country, and a lot of youth were executed, etc. More than this, the mullah regime, the point is here, has lost its legitimacy and is very worried about the restart of protests and people's uprising. Facing this serious challenge, the regime needs a crisis to escape from the internal crisis and stalemate. And so it will come to a proxy war against who's better than Israel. It also instated the other groups, not just about Hamas, at the region, other group at the region who were its affiliates or proxies to participate in the war against Israel.
Let me show you. I want to show you one more clip here. And by the way, because you're on an iPhone, when it starts playing, you'll have to actually tap your screen so you can hear the audio. But I want to show you something that they're asking here. It's a big question. And then I want to get your view on the other side of that. Gary, if you can go ahead and play that piece now.
There has been this long-standing relationship between Hamas and Iran. Iran has provided training. They've provided equipping. They have worked with Hamas for years, supporting Hamas. So the big question has been, was Iran in any way directly related to this attack? Now, according to U.S. officials who we've spoken with, and we have asked a lot of them, Hallie, they are not aware of any direct link, but they do continue to point to this long-standing, years-long relationship between Hamas and Iran.
So the U.S. intelligence, and actually the Western intelligence, even Israeli intelligence, has said that they don't see a direct link, i.e. that Iran planned it. But do you think that that's true? And if not, to what extent, because of those internal issues in Iran that you mentioned, did they just encourage it?
This is, this is flood from reality at that area. Everybody knows that Hamas without Iran is nothing, and jihadists without Iranian regime is nothing. But I think Biden administration doesn't want to have any act against Iran. That's why I say that I don't agree that, and because I know that Iranian regime has a few goals at this war, and for example, they help rid the Islamic groups affiliate with them of their internal crisis. Hezbollah, look at the situation at the region. Hezbollah tied to Iran, that no longer enjoy the popularity of the past in Lebanon, and it is facing many financial problems. It's systematic. Hezbollah has systematic corruption, and not just Hezbollah. Look at to Iraq. Look at Houthi in Yemen. The Houthis in Yemen face financial crisis and have gradually faced internal dissatisfaction. Iraqi militia groups, the same thing. You were in Iraq, you know them. Iran has, actually Iran ordered them. I think Iraqi militia group linked to Iran failed because this election, and for the most part, Iraqi people have turned away from them. But the war with Israel, and by extension with the US, serves as a good distraction from the internal failures of each of these groups. You should pay attention to this. Additionally, the fact that our Iranian regime knows that the Biden administration, I think, does not intend to carry out military operation against them, has made this regime bolder in Iraq and Syria.
I want to go down that path.
Danny, just let me say that just in last 2 months, they have attacked U.S. military bases for more than 100 times.
Right.
These attacks are,
and that's what I want to ask you.
Order
what is Iran's purpose here in intention? Because I think obviously they're attacking, as you say, over 100 times. It'll continue on because these pinprick attacks that they're supposed to send a message to Iran are obviously they're laughing at them. They're not listening to it at all. But the question is, what is Iran's instinct? Because I don't think they want to attack so hard that they actually draw a strong U.S. Attack into Iran. At least I don't think they want a direct clash with the U.S. But what do they want? How far do they want to go?
Actually, they don't want to have full war against the U.S. They know they lose this war.
Yeah.
But for Iranian regime, what's important so far, the Iranian regime has won the first round war against Israel because they have been able to thwart the Iranian people's attention from internal matters to this war in the region, in Israel. And more than this, many Iranian people inside the Iran that they fight against this regime. They don't want to have this regime. They try to regime change. Now, after this war, they think that Israel might attack Iran, hoping that happens. It will help them to, because they think that, to bring down the regime and then gain their freedom. Such a, I think, notion is incorrect, that the probability of a foreign attack to overthrow the Iranian regime is very low. If you look at this situation, I think Iranian regime very well know that Biden administration doesn't want to have any action against them. Look at a few years ago. I want to remember you during President Trump administration, President Trump and Secretary of State at that time warned to Iran, and you should step back from operation to attack us in Iraq and Syria. After that, what happened? The terrorists goes dark, and we didn't see any attack from them. But now it's totally different. And keep in mind this: the Iranian regime, through its overt support for its many proxy groups in the Middle East and even in Africa, is projecting the message to radical Muslims that it can successfully challenge the US, superpower at the world, and Israel at the same time. To radical Islamists war against the US and Israel is the will of their God.
I see.
Messianic belief that Iran has used to advance to nefarious in interest. Yes.
Okay, so in the last bit of time we have here, probably the most important issue and the most important question that we have: what is Iran going to do in regard to Lebanese Hezbollah? Because the big question is, will they start a second front and actually attack Israel while they're still in the Gaza Strip? Or will Israel actually attack Hezbollah? Because there's been some talk of that as well. How do you see that playing out? Because that's the biggest possibility of expanding this war, which is definitely not in American interests.
Yeah, it's not Iranian interest, Iranian regime interest too. They want to carry on this situation. This situation is win for Iranian regime. And if Israel stay in Gaza, I believe that it's going to help Iranian regime to united all at least radical Islamist groups at the region against Israel and against the United States. It's a little complicated, I know, to understand this situation, but this situation is very good, is excellent for Iranian regime.
So, but do you think then that Hezbollah will attack? Because obviously they're doing these cross-border things.
No,
now.
never. I don't think so. I don't think so. They hit Israel by plan.
I see.
And
okay.
they don't try to make full war against Israel.
They also don't want to draw Israel into an open warfare against them. So they want to kind of keep it in the middle, antagonistic but not open warfare.
Exactly, not open war, but just sometimes hit Israel and from south of Lebanon. That's it, not more than this.
And whether Israel chooses to launch it, that's a separate issue, which we'll talk about on another day. But the last thing I want to ask you here is, you said a while ago that Iran has won round one because they got what they wanted out here. What can the United States do to win round two and Israel?
You know what? This problem between Israel and Palestinian is different with Hamas war against Israel, Hamas terroristic attack against Israel. It's totally different, I think. That's true. We should all the time. I did it before, and I'm doing now, and at the future, we should make peace for ourselves, for neighbors, for world, for Middle East, everybody, okay? But you cannot have peace with a terrorist that attack you. It's really important. In order to stop the terrorist acts of the region, you should think about Iranian regime. The current US policy, I think it should be changed. There is no need to send large military forces. We talked about it before. Yeah. I don't agree that send large military force for a direct confrontation with Iran. The US but can help Iranian groups that want to change the regime in Tehran by providing assistance with telecommunication, including free internet, and even weapons if when necessary. Last year's, one more time I say that, I told you, demonstration in Iran, which many have called a genuine uprising, brought the regime to the brink of collapse. Had the US government, Biden administration, provide some moral and material support for the opposition inside Iran, there was a plausible possibility that the people would have brought down this regime. But unfortunately, the Biden administration was passive and remained unobserved. That we see right now, they have the same policy. The cost of a policy of providing moral and when possible and necessary material support to Iranian opposition group within Iran is much less than, I think, the cost of confronting Iran's proxy groups in the Middle East that right now they do that.
Yeah, it's a big mess no matter one way or the other, and obviously not something that's going to get solved today. But we're very grateful for having you to come on, Ali, and give us some clarity on what's going on inside of Iran and how that actually impacts what happens outside of Iran, especially in regards to this Hamas war and U.S. interest in the region. So we're really grateful for that, and I'd love to have you back to talk some more of these issues, especially as things continue to unfold. But thanks for coming on our show today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, and Merry Christmas to you and to all people that watching our conversation.
Well, thank you very much, and of course we wish the same to you. I look forward to seeing you when you come back to Washington, D.C. And for all our viewers out there, come back here in just a little while. We have Scott Horton, where we're going to talk about the other big war, the Russia-Ukraine war, and some of the things that are going on with that directly affects American interest. Don't miss that one. Come back. That's going to be right at 11 o'clock this morning, so just 30 minutes from now. Thanks. We are unintimidated and uncompromised to bring you the truth and the information you need to make sense of your world. We will see you next time on Daniel Davis Deep Dive.